After a withering cross-examination of Michael Jackson's accuser, the case against the one-time King of Pop may be in shambles. Here to talk about the bombshell turn of events in this sensational case are Courtney Anderson. She's a criminal defense attorney. We also have Lisa Bloom of Court TV, and back with us again, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach. Now, he's a longtime confidant of Michael Jackson, and at one time was Michael Jackson's spiritual advisor. Let's start with you, Lisa Bloom. I've got some conflicting emotions here. First of all, I think Michael Jackson did it. I think the guy's guilty. That's a gut. We all have our gut, you know, whether Scott Peterson was or Michael Jackson was guilty, Bernie Evers. I think he's guilty. But you know what? At the same time, I think he's going to get off, and I think the DA's doing a lousy job. This kid was ripped apart on cross-examination. How do they save this case?
Well, Joe, I strongly disagree with you. I've read all of the transcripts. I don't think he was ripped apart. Joe, you mean to tell me that you're surprised that a 55-year-old, highly skilled defense attorney, one of the best in the country, tripped the boy up a little bit on cross-examination? The kid is 15 years old, Joe.
The kid
what is it that disturbed you the most?
The kid tripped himself up. I mean, they can't tell a consistent story here.
Well, Joe, let me tell you, I've done a lot of child sexual abuse cases, and I have never had one where it was straight-line reporting like it would be for a carjacking or a burglary. This is the reality of child molestation cases. Children, number one, often love, admire, and respect their abuser. That's clearly the case here. Number two, they will never, I repeat, never report it forthrightly, immediately, and to all of the appropriate people. Children will deny to protect their abuser. Then they'll say it happened. Then they'll retract. Then they'll say it happened. Then they'll retract. It's actually a psychological syndrome called child sexual abuse accommodation syndrome. That's well known, and there's going to be testimony about that, Joe. You can't expect a 15-year-old boy with no legal experience to match wits with a defense attorney for 5 hours and come out unscathed. It's simply impossible. I think the kid overall did a decent job. And how can you possibly say that the DA shouldn't have brought the case? The case is not over yet. Give this kid a chance. He doesn't have Michael Jackson's money, but he says he's got truth on his side, and I think we should hear it out.
I think he's got a family with serious problems on their side. I think his mother's crazy. I think his mother's crazy. I think they wanted the money. I think they wanted the publicity. And again, you know what? I think, listen though, but I also think Michael Jackson is guilty. But what you think is a lot different from what the prosecution can prove. Let me bring in Courtney Anderson. Courtney, what about the turn of events in this case? Do I just have it? I mean, I have it all wrong?
No, certainly you're entitled to your opinion and a very passionate one that you have. I also do not believe this case is over, and I'm not going to agree that the prosecution has completely dropped the ball in this case. It's a credibility case, and in a credibility case, many of us on the outside are at a disadvantage. We can read the transcripts, but we don't know what the body language is. We don't know all those other nonverbal communication cues that the jury is picking up on to convince them one way or the other whether the accuser is telling the truth and his witnesses are. So there's a lot to this story. It's the difference between reading a script for a movie and seeing the movie on the screen.
Let me ask you, Rabbi Shmuley, I look at Michael Jackson. I like the guy back in the 1980s. I can't stand to look at him on TV. He's a gross caricature of himself. Every day I wonder, can people look at this guy and be fair? I mean, you know Michael Jackson. Does he get even creepier the closer you get to him?
No, not at all. On the contrary, when I knew Michael, I liked him. What turned me off, and here's the great secret of this trial, Joe, that nobody wants to focus on and everybody's overlooking. This boy got up on the stand and he said, I tried to call Michael, he wouldn't take my calls. He changed his phone numbers. But suddenly, when he needed me to, as a PR prop for Martin Bashir's documentary that Michael loves children with cancer, he suddenly called me. That, unfortunately, is the truth. Michael Jackson, I don't believe is a molester. I've said that all the time. Michael, rather, sadly, tragically, is a fraud. He has said throughout his life, I love kids, I care about them, I pay for this. He doesn't care about them. That's what I discovered. On his 42nd birthday, Michael said to me, I remember I was sitting in his office at Neverland, and this family had just come. And I said, what do I give as a birthday present to you, Michael, my friend, the man who has everything? He said, Shmuley, I'm in so much pain that I can't do more for the world's children. I said, Michael, well, let's then get parents to spend more time with their kids, which is what they really need. He said, I'll do anything for it. Joe, I used to try to take him. We went to Newark to give out books to poor children. Michael barely wanted to go. I had to twist his arm. That was the last time I saw him. That was April 2001. And when I heard that this boy was the accuser, what was so shocking to me was that at Neverland, Michael ignored him, ignored the family. I even thought to myself, what did you bring this family for? and tell me how much you care about children with cancer when you're coming out of your room every day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And let me tell you something, Joe. The truth about Michael is that here's the catch-22 in his defense. Michael can get off if he tells the jury the truth. All this thing that the world believes, that Michael's obsessed with children,
well,
that he's always around kids.
It's
simply not true. He's around kids.
Lisa?
Joe, you know that Michael Jackson is not going to take the stand. And look how imbalanced our system is. This kid has to give multiple statements over and over again. And he did that. He did everything he was supposed to do. And now a couple years later, when he's asked the same questions, of course, there are some inconsistencies. And of course, the defense is going to capitalize on that. The prosecution doesn't have that advantage because Michael Jackson has never had to make a statement to law enforcement. He has his Fifth Amendment right, as we all do. And you can bet dollars to donuts he's not going to take the stand because he knows he will be tripped up in the same way by the prosecution. That's the way our system works. But don't judge it all one-sided, Joe, just because the accuser had some inconsistencies in his testimony. I can tell you as a trial lawyer, it happens in every case, especially with molested children, and often there are still convictions.
Lisa, did you ever ask yourself, Michael knew the kid in August 2000. He doesn't stay in touch with him. The boy says on the stand, he changed his numbers, didn't let me even speak to him. Suddenly, Michael calls him back for a documentary, and they give this...
It's very sad.
Wait 1 second. They give this lie that Michael's really interested in him. Clearly, Michael hadn't seen him in more than a year. He waits 3 years to molest him until after the Martin Bashir documentary?
Molestation is not a rational act. Priests molest kids in the church rectory, in the pews. Paul Shanley was just convicted of that. I had a kid who was molested on Christmas Day at a big family party. It's inherently an irrational act, so you can't...
All right, let's get predictions from all of you. Quick prediction. I want a yes or no. Yes or no. Courtney Anderson, does Michael Jackson walk?
No.
So you say he's going to be guilty. Lisa Bloom, prediction.
I'm not going to predict anything, especially about the future, as Yogi Berra would say.
Okay, Rabbi Shmuley, give us a prediction.
Yes, he will walk, Joe, and it'll be an even greater tragedy for him because he'll see it as a victory and he'll go back to the desiccated, immoral life that he's led. And who knows if he'll live to see his 50th birthday, which will be the real tragedy.
I'll take that as a yes. I think Michael Jackson walks, and I think it's a disgrace. He's guilty. Anyway, thanks a lot, Courtney Anderson, Lisa Bloom, and Rabbi Shmuley. Greatly appreciate it. Now, come